All right. Party people in the place to be, vandals and monster mercenaries all alike. Welcome to a brand new episode of Pink Spots. We are finishing up our Morrison month with Joey. What are we talking about tonight?
We'll be talking about Seven Soldiers Frankenstein. Seven Soldiers was a series that Grant Morrison did back in the day where he wanted to take lesser known characters and bring them into a spotlight in their own kind of world universe and create like I think it ran 30 issues series, I think it was. And he
Yeah, there
just,
was.
yeah, he took each character that he decided to use, he gave them like a 4 issue arc to like kind of elaborate on their origins and stuff, and then he brought them all together into this one other book called Seven Soldiers, and where it was kind of like a team up kind of thing. Yeah.
And the whole thing was a tie-in to Final Crisis, right? Because basically all the superheroes are were away fighting and are dead, and basically like these were the only heroes left to
Mm,
save the Earth was kind
mm,
of the whole thing with it, right?
yeah, and I read something like he wanted to take lesser known characters so he could really have a lot more freedom on what he could do and do with these characters. So I was going through it really quick, and I saw, a Frankenstein one by Grant Morrison. I dug the Agents of Shade that Lemire did, and I saw this, and I think Frankenstein's a pretty cool character in the DC universe. So I was like, and then I saw who drew it, and I was like, damn, we have to talk about this book because it's this 4 issue arc was drawn by Doug Mahnke. People who a lot of people may be familiar with him, but those who aren't, he's actually drawing the Jeff Lemire Swamp Thing, that Green Hell, that's being re-released right now because he had health issues. So now that got put on hiatus for almost 2 years, and now I think the first issue is getting re-released this month, and Doug Mahnke is the artist on that book. So if you've already read the first issue, that's Doug Mahnke who drew that, and he's the one who drew this Seven Soldiers Frankenstein book. So I mean, one thing you got to hand Grant Morrison, man, he's been blessed with fantastic artists working on his books.
Right. And this book just has some mesmerizing splash pages through it
Mm-hmm.
too. For like a four-issue one, there are some of my favorite, I think, splash pages I've ever seen. Like this one here at the end of issue three. Just
Yeah, the
ooh.
big bomb. Yeah, he's walking away. Yeah, it's
Oh, and
it's.
another thing that
Mm,
I really liked about this book is it felt like you just got four issues handed to you from like a larger series. You just kind of got like these four kind of key issues that told this kind of main story about like so I like that there was a grander scope to this, even though like it was like the first time he's ever like really played with this character. He created this Frankenstein, right? I don't think I've or has it been around DC before? Because I don't think I'd
I
ever seen it
I
before
think
he
it
did it.
originates from that Weird Commandos, or what's that one there that James Gunn announced?
Yeah, that I was going to get to that because this
Mm,
character is going to be getting animated adaptation really soon, which is pretty cool. Like, yeah,
mm.
monster
Monster Commandos,
monster
right?
commandos or some crap like
Creature Commandos. That's it.
yeah.
Creature Commandos, and I think there's a Frankenstein character there, and I think that might be where the originated from into now, like the now modern DC version of it is what you get now with a Frankenstein with the trench coat, the big sword. Like he's got a great design, a great look, fantastic, and like this Frankenstein is kind of like a mixed bag of he's out for justice, right? Kind of like Ghost Rider. He's got to exact vengeance or justice onto people that do bad. And like later on, I think it's in issue 2 where he's like, "Oh, you thought you'd escape
Yeah.
judgment?" And then, like it totally made me think Ghost Rider, like no one escapes my judgment, right? My Yeah, so it's pretty cool. Like he's very uh like single-minded, like he's
Well,
only
and he's
got the one
very
goal, right?
vicious too. Yeah.
Yeah, like in that first issue, the first issue there called Ugly Head. That's
Yeah.
the first issue of the arc, and it's like these little creatures that control. They
They're
latch
called
on to
maggots. Yeah, they
yeah,
latch onto your spine and yeah,
and
this
and they control you. And well, I mean, uh, So it starts off. It starts off with kind of like a little history of the town, right? Where they're riding the train,
Yeah, it
and
starts
he's
off back in
fighting.
the 1820s, I believe it said, and like yeah, he's
Mhm.
fighting Melmoth, his
Yeah,
nemesis,
his nemesis.
and like he's got a circus full of these they're called maggots and stuff, and like yeah, they go from
Yeah,
town to town infecting these people, and
mm.
Frankenstein's putting a stop to it, and yeah, he crashes the train,
The
and
train.
then they show like the town how it grew up around the train crash from
Yeah,
the 1800s to 2005, and yeah, that's where we kind of get introduced to like our villain,
yeah,
Ugly
the
Head.
yeah, yeah, and that's kind of so that gives you context on where these creatures came from, right? It's from that train crash with all the creatures in it that he was fighting and it crashed, and now it's just starting to resurface. Yeah, and then so yeah, that main villain. Yeah, those are the maggots attacking him, and yeah, and then he cuts Malmus' head off, right, and then throws it into
He shoots
the
it off. He blows it off
oh, it blows it off. Yeah,
with
and then
his
goes
gun, and it just
flying
shoots through the wall, and yeah, it just keeps
in,
flying, dude. It's
into the coal chamber of the train, I think, right?
yeah,
Yeah.
but yeah, basically he's kind of like a Deadpool type guy. Like he can't die. He just kind of reconstitutes no matter what happens to
Mhm.
him. So
Yeah.
like yeah, he's never dying, which is really funny because of what happens to him in issue 2. But
Yeah. Yeah. And there's a what is it? The final issue too, right? Where he's like, because they don't introduce Shade right away. Like this is like he comes back, right? So all this
yeah, he
bad
comes.
stuff's happening. Yeah, the maggots, and then it kind of like summons him, right? How does he get summoned again?
Yeah, basically, like he just comes up through the floor when the goth girl's running after the prom, and like he's just like I've been summoned. It's happening
Yeah,
again, and like
like the
he's just
evil summons him. Right, he rises from his slumber from all the evil going on, and then like, and he's got a singular goal, right? He's very.
oh
It's
yeah. Well,
just like
basically, what happens is Ugly Head is like this picked on kid, and like he exacts his revenge because for some reason like the maggots really like him and they go along with his plan to infect the kids that pick on him at the school, and Frankenstein and basically he's got the whole prom just infected with these things
yeah,
when
that's where they start.
Frankenstein
Yeah,
shows up.
and this is where the girl runs away, right? When she sees that, and that's when Frankenstein rises,
Yeah, she
and then
runs
she
into him
tries
and he
to
just
tase him.
yeah,
Just
it's just
doesn't
like
really
ooh,
work much. Yeah,
electricity, yeah.
yeah. He's like, I'm born of it. Yeah, so that's when it starts. He's like, oh, time to get revenge, and then the kid, and he's like you said, vicious, right? He just grabs the kid by the neck
Throws him through a
and just
window.
heaves him. Yeah, heaves him, and that's where his sword is, right? The sword of Michael,
Yeah, the
and then just
archangel
like, whoop, just falls down
just chops
and
his head off. Yeah,
chops his
dude.
head off. The little fairy maggot creature that's controlling that latches onto the neck just chops both their heads off, like right at the perfect spot that it chops both their heads off. And then the girl's like, "Holy shit," like, and of
And she
course,
comes back and like he's burning down the school. There's no saving the
yeah,
the kids that were um
no,
taken over, man. Like they
yeah, that's it. They're like, nope, they're done. It's over for them. I'm fucking chopping them up, burning them.
it's like
Yeah,
super gruesome ending for a DC comic. It
it
almost
is.
reads more like something from like a Wildstorm book.
Yeah, it's dark. It's really dark. Yeah, yeah. And these stories are connected, but not like you could almost read any one of those out of order, and it probably wouldn't matter all that much out of the four issues because they're
Aside from they
slightly.
kind of introduce the characters, they name drop who they
Yeah,
are and stuff, and they
yeah,
later get introduced. But
yeah,
that's the only reason to read them in order, I'd say.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Because what's his name shows up. Malmoth shows up in issue 2,
Right. Yeah, the
and then
best
you
issue.
don't.
My favorite
Yeah,
issue. Yeah.
you don't see him again. So that's how issue 1 goes, and then he's like, he has work to do. That's how it ends, and he's walking away. They have a shot of him walking away of the first issue, and he's like, I have work to do, and then that's like Frankenstein's back, baby.
And then issue 2, yeah, it gets insane. Like this one jumps into like sci-fi territory.
Mars.
He's on Mars looking for
And,
Melmoth and writing
yeah, and that
his
issue is called Red Zombies, I think, right?
Red Zombies. Yes.
Issue 2, the title for issue 2 is called Red Zombies, and I love the cover of this one. Hey, isn't that a fantastic cover?
The
You
close up
had,
with the gun, yeah. I
yeah,
didn't clip
yeah,
it, man.
man.
I
I
only,
had it. I put it in the intro. Basically, that's what after you see Grant Morrison's face there in the intro. That's basically the where he has the curled lip,
yeah, doing
and
the Sid Vicious thing.
yeah, exactly. He's pretty punk looking pose there with his gun, holding his gun. It's nice. Well, all the covers are pretty good, but that one in particular is pretty sick. Like, I mean, Frankenstein's such a visually cool character. Like, how can you not enjoy?
Oh
And
yeah, and you can tell Mankey had a blast drawing him. I mean, just like
yeah,
look at like all the detail that he put in, and just
yeah, and like the picture you used for your to do the thumbnail for this episode. That's like the first page. Boom, page one of the second issue. Bang. He's riding that mantis, pre-mantis horse type creature on Mars, which is pretty fucking cool in that pose. With the sword. It's just killer, man. It's kick
yeah, it's
ass.
metal. It's metal as hell.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Man, Morrison must have had a fun time. Just like, all right, doesn't have to make that much sense. Just let him go around and just fucking tear people apart and
Yeah,
yeah,
while playing with old school comic, like pulp,
yeah,
traditions, man. Because like
mhm,
this one, like I was gonna say, like it really goes hard off of like old sci-fi pulp graphic novels, but at the
yeah,
same time, it's very, very weird and brutal at the same time. And yeah,
mhm,
it's just kind of like him trekking across Mars,
mhm.
tracking Malmuth, who has a
They're
bunch of
in some
slave
kind of
children, and they're digging in a old Martian tomb to dig
yeah,
up gold from the giant gods that used to wear these crowns, and like he's gonna make the crowns and use the gold from the crowns to fund a war against his wife, who will meet in issue 4.
and like these children, they're like not normal children, right? They're like some kind of because they can breathe on Mars because you have humans there, right? Where he's introduced in humans.
Well, yeah, they don't explain it, but like
Yeah,
I just figured this takes place in the DC universe because they're talking about, well, later on they start talking about how all the other superheroes are missing and
yeah.
gone and stuff. So I figured like, yeah, there's life on other worlds. So like I don't know if these are strictly human children or something, but like I know that
Well,
like they are
well, they're not.
humanoid children.
Yeah, that's it. They're humanoid because you have humans and they have like the space suits so they can breathe and stuff. And then these children just have the goggles and they're digging with pickaxes to try to find. Yeah, and Melmoth,
Alien.
even Melmoth has a breathing apparatus on.
Oh no,
Okay.
he's kind of mummied out. See, he's like,
Yeah, yeah. From being burnt
yeah. And
from the train when he got his head blown off.
well, they also talk about some other shit that like kind of popped up and went wrong for him in between. There was two other things they were talking about, like the people underneath Manhattan and Paradise
See,
Grove or something like that. So
yeah,
like I was saying,
I wonder if those are like little tidbits from some of the because I kept going and I was reading some of the other stories from it. I think I read like 6 or 7 stories so far from the Seven Soldiers. So I bought the book one. So I'm reading through that right now because I enjoyed it. I was like, oh, this is pretty cool. So I was interested to see how he handled a lot of the other characters. And yeah, it's been pretty cool so far, and I've been enjoying it. So it's definitely a weird, you,
yeah,
you
he
know,
picked
it's,
a random bunch. Like the only one
yeah,
I know that other than Frankenstein is Mr. Miracle out of like
yeah.
the
Hmm. Yeah. So like after I read this, I was like, oh, that's pretty cool. Yeah. So like we are saying, the kids in the temple. Oh, and then like the rocks fall and kills one of the kids, and he's just like, oh, whatever, with the arm in his
yeah.
hand.
He's
He's
just
like
like, yeah, I
moving.
needed a new arm. And this one looks strong, and the yeah.
Yeah. Young and strong. Yeah, exactly. So he's kind of like Frankenstein himself, like just taking body parts and mm,
Yeah, I
yeah,
guess that's how he kind of like rebuilds himself. They never really explain it, but yeah, in this he basically gets broken down that like Melmoth's blood is what Victor Frankenstein used to bring the monster back to life,
back to life.
and
Yeah.
we get this beautiful
Yeah.
splash page. I love that one. That one's almost
Yeah.
as good as the first page one,
Yeah, he barges in,
and just
save the
messes
day.
them up. And yeah, like when they disturb the tomb of like the giant emperor to get the gold, it awakens the red
The red
zombies that we're
zombies.
talking about. So
Yeah.
like Frankenstein helps all the people escape, including Melmoth, and like he holds the door open, and you think that Frankenstein's turn the leaf. He's going to be a virtuous hero. But no, like when Melmoth's like, "Oh, you saved me, son," and like we could do so much good together. Frankenstein's just like, "You think I saved you? No, dude. Like these praying mantis horses are going to eat you, and when you come back to life, you're going to be their shit."
Yeah,
Which is like you're
you'll
talking
be living. Yeah, you'll be living a living turd is basically like what the fuck. Yeah, and like as I'm reading this, I get like I said, like a little bit like how he's like Ghost Rider, like one to exact vengeance and judgment on people, but it also has like I find a Hellboy vibe to it, like with all these little creatures and the mythos, like and how they go to Mars, and then like it wakes up the red zombies are kind of like the Golden Army. You know, I find it kind of has like a lot of like Hellboy vibes to it, like certain beats of the story as well, like with
well,
the creatures and obviously he's going to get introduced. Like I think in the next issue is where they introduce Shade, so he's
exactly,
part of a
yeah,
bigger organization. So that's like uh,
BPRD.
yeah, exactly. So like I mean, it definitely has like this a lot of the same beats as Hellboy as well, which is fucking awesome. Like I love Hellboy, so yeah, yeah,
Which is kind of why I got into this book. Well, I got like you. I read Jeff Lemire's Frankenstein Agents of
yeah.
Shade first and stuff, and I got this because I liked that, and I never really read further in the Seven Soldiers, but I
Mm,
kind of want to now too. I'm gonna see if I can
mm.
scrape that up.
It's pretty cool. It was on sale on Kindle, so if anyone's interested, you can pick this up on Kindle. And I think book one was on sale for like 80% off, so it's like a $30 book for like $10. So I don't know if it's still on sale. I'd have to go back and check, but yeah. Like I think these four, because I bought the issues individually, and I think they're part of book two. The Frankenstein story is in the second volume because it's in two volumes, and I think it's two volumes, and in total it's like about 30 issues. So volume one is about 15 issues, and volume two is another 15 issues total. I think the entire story itself is 30 issues in total. Mm.
Okay.
Yeah, and then like yeah, he's walking away. Like it ends. The second issue ends where he saves and he's liberates all the slave children, and it's like and thus damned he leads the damned back home. So I don't know, like the damned back home. So I don't know if they're like you said, humanoid children or
Martians or yeah.
yeah, maybe I don't know, or zombie children. I don't know. Like anyway, they're innocent because he's not killing them. So mm,
Oh, you're all good, Manny. Like it's very esoteric. It was really weird, and like I said, it came out around the same time as Final Crisis. A lot of people weren't that big of fans of Grant Morrison at that time. Like he really, it was very controversial at the time. You know what I mean? He was
mm.
very some of the things that he did during his time writing for DC kind of irked a lot of people off. So like there were might
Oh
have been reasons why you might not have seen these books. Because
mm,
like how fans get, but
yeah.
I, I think that this is really good, especially for being like a tie-in book to an event. Like I,
Well, I mean,
I
the first three issues could be like almost like one shots, more or less. Like I think you could read any of the three first issues easily without having much. Like it stands on each issue, pretty much stands on its own.
yeah, they're all it's old school comic style, like where each it's a
Mm,
one and done. Each issue is its
yeah,
own story, and they really he goes out of his way to have a different genre for each book. Like the
yeah, a
first
different
issue is
yeah,
kind of like a teenage like horror thing with some body
mhm.
horror. The second one is straight up like sci-fi,
Sci-fi,
some
yeah,
horror. The third one is a little it kind of goes back to body horror, but it's kind of swampy.
yeah.
And
It's
then
like they get possessed,
the
kind
fourth
of
issue
get
is full on fantasy.
fantasy horror. Yeah, exactly. Like the third issue is a town.
It's called
Everyone
The
starts to go.
Water.
Yeah, the water. People start going mad and killing each other. Animals like the prey is now the predator kind of deal. Like it starts off where you see a cat being
Well, kind of makes
taken
you the
apart.
reverse of what you are. Like if you're like a really
Yeah,
smart person, it'll make you dumb. If you're a really nice person, it'll make you
mm.
aggressive. If you like,
Like you have these little dogs, like lap dogs, that are turning on their masters. It's it's crazy. Then you have Frankenstein standing looking down at the town, right? It's called Salvation Valley. Welcome to Salvation Valley. And then all these soldiers come running. Turn around. We drank the water.
We
Don't let
want our
it'll
mommy.
get
Yeah,
you.
like
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And then all of a sudden he's like, well, he looks down the hill and all of a sudden these rabbits, squirrels, all these like normally cuddly creatures come running at him. And what does Frankenstein do? Just pulls out his gun, starts blasting.
I mean,
Oh,
but he's overwhelmed, and out of nowhere, a helicopter cracks into his
yeah,
ear range and a voice from his past, and we get introduced to probably my favorite character of this lore. Man, I really like the bride. She
yeah,
is super cool,
very
and
cool.
she shows up and like she's basically the bride of Frankenstein, but
Mm,
she's been modified by Indian assassins, I believe she says, which is why she has the four arms now.
mm,
Really cool backstory. I'd really like to get a issue about that at some point, Grant.
mm.
But yeah, it's really cool. She saves his ass, but then she tranks him and delivers him to
Does
Shade headquarters.
I don't think she actually tranks him.
You think she like shoots him? Shoots him?
I think she literally shoots him because he can't die, right?
That's
So
gangster.
she just shoots him and he blacks out till he regenerates, and then when he comes to, he's all. I think she just literally shoots him. Like, boom,
That
she
makes
knows it's
sense.
not
That's
gonna
something
kill him.
like an
Yeah,
that's like something an ex-wife would do. So yeah.
yeah, yeah. But she's got a great character design, right?
Yeah, dude,
Like
she
with
is really
the
cool with the Shiva arms.
the red cloak, yeah, the Shiva arms, the like Bride of Frankenstein hairdo with the white lightning bolts on the side kind of style. The earrings, the bustier. I mean, she's a badass character, and I love the fact that her boots are not high heel boots. Like, I
Okay,
love that
Tucker
it's a
Carlson.
yeah, man. Like, what the fuck? All these chicks fighting with these stupid stilettos, man. Like, fuck off. So she's got regular like if you're gonna go out and kick some ass, like some kind of maybe spacey looking uh, ass kicking boots, Yeah. And plus, she's got fucking four arms, right? So she's always like two guns firing at the same time, and and as we go later on, you can see she does other shit while she's shooting her gun, like looking at her phone and killing people at the same time and stuff. It's pretty cool. Yeah, and this is like you said. Once he comes to after she gets shot, that's where he gets. That's where Shade is introduced. The crew.
And he basically gets drafted into it because they explained to him that like, dude, like all the heroes are disappearing and we could basically kill you right now for what you did at the high school in issue 1. So
Mm,
you got to work for us. So basically, they tell him what's going on. Like they got to go into town. There's something wrong with the. Actually, they tell him that they got to rescue somebody. They don't even really tell him about what's wrong with the water until they actually get there and see it, which
mm,
is they got to rescue a cyborg superhero, right, from the X-Hawks, and that's the
mm.
mission. So they go back into the town and run into probably my favorite scene, man, from any of these issues, the cows. Oh my God,
Oh
the
yes,
the 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 meat eating cows just
the
killed
mad
me.
cows. Mad cow, man. I think it must be a joke or a play on mad cow, like mad cow disease.
Yeah, it reminded me of that SNFU song, man.
Mm. Yeah,
But
yeah.
yeah,
Oh,
there's
and
just
his
all these great.
limbs.
Yeah,
Yeah,
just
limbs, fucking parts. I mean, it's
Frankenstein and the
crazy.
Bride just decimate this whole barnyard, man, and she just like
Mm.
slaughterhouse rocks afterwards. And I'm just like, damn, dude, there's so much animal abuse in this series. I'm like, I'm cracking up. Like,
Yeah.
wonder what. I guess he just finished We 3, and like he's like, okay, now it's time to get vicious. And Frankenstein like basically like runs into like this giant walking thing of liquid, and they
Mm.
don't really understand what it is until like the X-Hawks guy shows up, and it gets a little convoluted, but it's really neat. Basically, like the government tried to weaponize water, but
Yeah,
instead of becoming a weapon, it became intelligent and didn't want to do what it was told to do. So
yeah.
it was turning everybody against each other, and like they had to shut it down. And it's a pretty neat issue. Like I gotta say, man, Grant really impressed me with his what the fuck isms with this one because I didn't think he could get weirder than he usually does. But this issue is weird, and darkly humor, but like tragic at the same time because like they literally once again just nuke the town. Like
Nuke the town.
there's
Yeah.
kind of no salvation because like you're getting told the whole time like all the superheroes are gone, like you're the only ones that could save everybody, and like so far they ain't saved nobody really, except for maybe the kids on Mars. But I don't know. That's what really kind of endears this series to me. Like I kind of like like stuff like the Authority, where
Mm,
like the superheroes kind of
yeah.
don't necessarily super the hero that often.
No, especially not in this one. I mean, they just yeah, whatever. But like they said, like Frankenstein and the bride, they're both dead, right? So they're like, whatever, we're already
Yeah.
dead, so being dead's not half bad. I just noticed from one of the other panels, they gave her two different colored eyes, which is cool. Like,
Oh, real? She got the heterochromia.
yeah, so maybe from two different bodies, they used eyes from two different bodies that had two different colors. Yeah. Then the fourth book opens, like every opening page is always awesome, right? The fourth book, you get that opening page in the snowstorm. Fantastic. Oh, beautiful fucking splash page to open up the fourth book. Love it. Mm.
And this one starts off with Frank. He's got to fight like this living galaxy guy
Yeah,
who
some weird, yeah, entity.
called Quaz or what was his name? I forget, but like he dates back to like ancient mythology, and like he's kind of
Yeah,
always been around, but like he's a small universe that's never been able to grow. So like he's killable, and like it's weird. Like Grant Morrison does what Grant Morrison does with some of this stuff, but it's a really cool action set piece with Frankenstein fighting this thing.
like this creature can feed off radio waves or something like that. I think it is like, yeah,
But basic,
yeah. Then they confront each other. Basically, he says he's going to tear him apart. Pulls out his gun. Blam! Blasts him. Then they have a slugfest going on. The cosmic creature thing stabs him through the chest. Yeah. Uh,
and
is that okay? Yeah,
Frankenstein,
he tears his arm off. Yeah, he tears his arm off before stabbing him through the chest. Then he tears his arm off, stabs him through the chest, and yeah, he's holding him up on his spear. And I mean,
and
Frankenstein just
Frankenstein blasts him, and basically because I guess he shoots him in one of the suns or something because he makes him drastically cool down and through the
mm,
laws of thermodynamics. They explain it really well in the comics. I'm not smart enough to
yeah, it goes to a scene. Yeah, it goes to a scene where yeah, you have the hole in the guy's face, and they kind of go on to explain it. Yeah, yeah, it's a whole technical scene stuff, and then boop. Then he takes the guy's own spear through the chest, and that's how he kills him. And he radios into Shade saying, "I'll need a new right arm."
Yeah, and he's like, we'll assassinate a prominent bodybuilder.
Bodybuilder, yeah, yeah, exactly.
Like really good dark humor, man. Like there's
Yeah.
some really funny parts in this book. And basically like his next job is he's going to have to go and fight Malmus' wife, Gladiana Tenebrae, I believe her name is, and she's basically the goddess of fairies, the old fairy kingdoms, and they've been asleep for a long time, and they're very angry, so they are setting up their um, stuff to come to our world, and Frank has to take her on, and they kind of
Mm-hmm.
have like the total normal thing where like, but you're a monster, the humans don't love you, you should totally be on our side, which kind of echoes like Hellboy type stuff. But much like Hellboy, Frank's he's for some reason dedicated to protecting mankind, and which is kind of cool. She kind of turns that on him, and she's like, aren't we human too? And like kind of, and Frank ain't having it, man. And like basically like um but this one, it ends with a pretty neat setup. He blows up her stuff, and he actually busts her. and that's kind of how this one ends, which it makes me really want to get into and read like at least the Seven Soldiers crossover to see what
Yeah,
happens with this because
because I
like
think her character, right, this fairy characters, they're the main driving force, I think, of the whole Seven Soldiers story. Like they're the main threat, and I think this is how this last book kind of ties in to. I think you get introduced to like this type of character because as I was reading this, you get this character shows up, right? They observe the world and manipulate it, like when she's eating her apple, like she sees the world, right, and then she devours it. She devours the pain and suffering of the world, and that's how they feed and stuff. Kind of, that's kind of the idea I got from it. So
yeah.
yeah, and that's where he's like, well, no, you're gonna be, you have to be, you have to answer for your transgressions, and that's when he blows up all their floating cities, and yeah, and then he's like, you won't escape judgment. Yeah,
And I gotta say, man, for like a tie-in, like a little four-shot thing, they don't come out as good as this. But then again, you don't usually get people as talented as this to like kind of work on, like
yeah.
little small tie-ins. So I guess it's like once in a blue moon type of thing. I really, really regret missing out on this when it came out, and like,
And I think it's a tie-in that's written by all the same guy too helps. Where you get like let's say a big crossover where the tie-ins are written by that series writer, where they just have like basically guidelines to follow.
yeah,
Whereas this is an overall idea from Grant Morrison, and he writes all the little tie-ins that go with it, so it's more cohesive. I find, and that's probably why it's the tie-ins for each character probably works so much better than let's say like Donny Cates when he was doing his King in Black, right? And then it crosses over into Immortal Hulk. Then Al Ewing has to write that one, right? So there might be a little bit of a disjointed, maybe not align. The views probably don't align perfectly together, but here it's all the same writers. So yeah, there's nothing lost in the interpretation or anything, which I think is probably why it turned out so well. Yeah.
and I'm glad that like he went with such weird esoteric characters because like you said, like he was able to just do what he wanted. Like I don't think
Mhm.
like if was even working with Swamp Thing, they would let him do the into the story arcs as brutal as he did. Like because
Yeah,
I, I don't see like him letting Swamp Thing burn down a school. I don't see
yeah,
DC letting him get away
yeah.
with that. So even if it
Yeah.
is Grant doing it.
And I know that Frankenstein was in another series called Gotham Monsters, I believe, or Monsters of Gotham, where he has I think it's a four-issue miniseries that came out oof, 4 or 5 years ago. And Frankenstein is in that one as well. If you like Frankenstein, you want to read something, you could go find Gotham Monsters or Monsters of Gotham, I think it's called. Anyway, either way, and he's in that one, so you could go find
Okay.
that as well.
Well, that makes
Yeah,
sense too, because at one point in this, Malmoth compares him to Solomon Grundy.
yeah,
So
exactly. You're a
that's
Grundy, he says. Yeah.
yeah. So
Mm,
that's cool. I gotta actually check that out to see if it actually kind of ties to that. That's
yeah.
pretty cool.
Yeah, so those that and there's Shade, Agents of Shade, which was Lemire, and Lemire did the first 10
Two
issues, I
arcs.
believe, and the second arc was written by Matt Kent. He took over for the final 10. So I think it's a 20 issue run where the first 10 are drawn by are written by Jeff Lemire, and the art is done by Alberto
Pachelli
Ponte.
or
Yeah, Ponticelli. Love his work, man, in
yeah.
that. And this is where a case, I don't know if we talked about this on the show before, how an inker can change the style of a book dramatically. Because in that book, the Agents of Shade, like they change inkers, I don't know how many times, and it definitely changes the tone and the style of the art. And then when Alberto inks his own stuff, that's when it really hums. Like I love it when he inks his own stuff. It definitely has a much more like raw grittiness to it that really fits the character. So
Yeah.
yeah, it was cool, and it was crazy just to see like how much an inker can change the style of a penciler. It's insane.
I really liked
Yeah.
Agents of Shade, man. That was
Yeah.
one of my favorite New 52 books. That one on like I Vampire. I really liked like the weird monster books they had and during that run.
Yeah. Ah, I think that I Vampire guy. I think he's in the Gotham Monsters book with Frankenstein.
Andrew Bennett.
Yeah, I think so. If I remember correctly, I only read the first two issues, but I think he's in it. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
They have him, Frankenstein. I'm trying to think of who the monsters were.
They got Daniel Kim the zombie. Like I'll totally read it then. That's like my other
Yeah.
one of my favorite DC monster guys that nobody ever usually talks about.
Shit. I'm trying to think of all the monsters now. There's the vampire. There's Frankenstein. I can't think of what the other ones were. I'll have to dig them back out, the books and check.
They probably had like Croc as the Gillman. I don't know, but since it's in Gotham, I figured they got to have a couple Batman characters as.
Yeah. I'm trying to remember now, and I can't think of it. I think maybe Killer Croc was one of the characters in it. Yeah, Killer Croc is in it now that you mention it. I remember now. Yeah. 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 The first couple issues were pretty fucking good, so I don't know why they got.
Do you know who wrote that? If you don't, it's cool. I'm not gonna make you.
Uh,
I know
I
you're gonna go
don't
crazy now.
remember. Yeah. Yeah. I'll have to look it up after.
Take
Yeah.
it easy, Manny. Have a good one, dude. It's always a pleasure.
Mm. Yeah. I'll have to dig them out too. Actually, I might have them not too far. Anyway, we could talk about it after off air.
Sweet.
Yeah. So yeah, man, that's Grant Morrison. Frankenstein, Seven Soldiers, Frankenstein, which was I dug it. Like Doug Mahnke. I mean, you got Grant Morrison and Doug Mahnke working together, so I figure that's reason enough to read it just right there. Mm.
Yeah, I mean, like I wish that he could have just did 30 issues of this story. Like I would have read that. But
Yeah.
other characters could be cool too. I'll definitely be checking it out.
Mm. Yeah, and like we were talking about like Hellboy before, and I was just thinking Hellboy, doesn't he have a sword and a gun too?
He only has a sword sometimes. Like he is
Okay.
known. Like there is like that, but like basically it's just to show that like he is able to wield Excalibur because he's King
Mm.
Arthur's lineage, but he doesn't usually use Excalibur.
That much. Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah, because I know you
he
see
usually
shots
just
of him with a
uses.
sword. Yeah,
He usually
that
just
big
has
gun,
yeah.
his big ass gun. Yeah. Yeah, so fuck, man, it was awesome. I enjoyed it. And Frankenstein. I mean, how can you not like Frankenstein? This monster.
Yeah, I mean, I've read a lot of comic book adaptations of him, and like I've enjoyed most of them. Like Steve Niles did a really good one.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, like there was that Zenoscope one that I have about the
Mm-hmm.
hot chick Frankenstein, which is pretty cool.
Yeah. Yeah.
Uh,
So
so
if you like
yeah.
monsters, man, this is definitely one to pick up because there's other monsters in it and creatures too. So if you dig all that kind of stuff, then it's a fun read.
Oh yeah, and definitely carry on to like Lemire's and Kent's short-lived but excellent Agents of Shade book because
Yeah.
like it really is a lot more like Hellboy than this even is, but in a
Yeah.
good
Yeah.
way. Like
Yeah.
y- y- it, being like Hellboy is not a bad thing. That's all I'm gonna say,
No.
man. Like there's
If it's done well, and it's done well.
yeah.
Yeah. So, man, I enjoyed it. So I definitely recommend it. That's my take on it.
Oh, definitely, yeah. Like all the books we talked about, like these are some of the most interesting and fun and kind of easiest ways to kind of break in to see if you like Grant Morrison's writing. The books
Hmm.
we've talked about, they're very accessible. They do get to his weird side, but they don't dive fully in like something like The Invisibles or The Filth or Nameless would. So
Hmm.
you can see if you want to get further into this crazy man's work, but I think
Out of all the ones we did, I think the first one, what was it again?
Annihilator.
Annihilator was probably the weirdest one of them all. The other ones are a little more straightforward, right? Like We Three was pretty straightforward. It's military testing on animals to become weapons. That was
Yeah,
pretty
that's
straightforward. Uh, then we did Happy, which is
as
pretty
weird as
straight story.
Annihilator, but in
It's
its own
weird,
way.
but yeah, that's it. But
In a more
but
grounded way, in a more
yeah,
earthly way. Whereas Annihilator, it does get more into the etheric and esoteric side
yeah.
of, you know,
And
who creates what, like could your own creation come and put a fucking tumor in your head, type of storyline.
And yeah, and then we get Frankenstein, right? Seven Soldiers, which is just weird because creature weird. Like it's
Creature
not.
weird, yeah, and like him getting to play with all the old comic convention tropes,
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
yeah,
Getting
it's
to play
not.
with all the pulpy stuff, but
Yeah,
being as weird and brutal as he wanted to be with it at the same time, which is pretty cool.
yeah, it's not like psychologically weird or anything like that. It's more like just fun monster stuff. You know.
Yeah, it's not like the filth. It's not gonna leave you like, what after you read
What
it.
did I just read? Yeah, like I'm more confused now than when I started. You know.
What? Like,
Yeah, yeah. No, there's no. It's not existential or anything like that. It's pretty. It's a straightforward story. He's out to try to find the bad guys and chops them up, and you know. So good stuff. It's fun stuff. So yeah,
right,
man,
right,
that's pretty much Frankenstein's Seven Soldiers.
right on. Hey, before we go, do you have a shout out? We kind of forgot to do ours at the
Like a
beginning.
check-in type thing.
Yeah, check in.
No, man, I did. Like I think I mentioned it on Friday. Most of the stuff, and I this weekend I had the hockey tournament, so I didn't get much reading done. So yeah, I haven't really done much. What
Okay.
did I? Oh, Last of Us. We started watching Sunday. We didn't do anything, so we did Last of Us. So we binged that. We watched the first 4 episodes.
There's only 4 out.
Yeah, there's 4 out now. The fourth
Okay,
one
I'll
came
wait a
out
little while
last
longer to. I'll wait a little while
Sunday,
longer to.
Sunday night, and it's been really good, man. I've really enjoyed it. Yeah,
I want to see it, but like I hate running out of episodes. So,
yeah,
like,
yeah. I know, but
especially with something
there's
like that's gonna be, you know what I mean? Like that's gonna be one where you're like, God damn it, not now. I'm pretty
but
sure. So
like episode 3 was great. We love that one. Yeah, the Bill and Frank episode. Yeah,
I never played the game, so like it's gonna
yeah,
be all new for me.
yeah.
I heard it
I
follows it pretty close, though. I heard it's a pretty good adaptation.
yeah, like they get into the museum, like a lot of the scenes, man, it's like beat for like they reproduce a lot of the scenes from the game like almost exactly the same. It's pretty cool the way they did it, like how they stayed true to a lot of the scenes in the game and stuff. So if you've played the game, like you'll recognize all kinds of different settings in it right away. You'll be like, "Oh shit, man, they like," and oh, it's really well done. It's really well done. Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
looking forward to it. Like I just don't have a PlayStation. That's why I never played the game. Like
Yeah,
it's not
yeah, it's
because
true.
like
It's a PlayStation exclusive, eh? Mm.
it looks fun though, and
Yeah, it was pretty fun. I didn't play all the way through. I played maybe halfway through, about halfway, and then work got busy and I stopped playing and I never got back to it. So, yeah,
that's cool.
yeah.
For me, I'm gonna go. I got read a bunch of stuff, but like I'm just gonna do one. I'm gonna talk about Saga episode 61. I usually trade weight for this, but I really
Mhm.
love this cover. I love Hazel and Squire just jamming out. That's super cool. So I was gonna
Mhm.
hang that up on the wall. I usually get like issues when I really like the covers, but I'm
Mhm.
really happy that I picked this issue up because in the back of it I discovered this book, Spectators, by Brian K. Vaughan and by Nico Harrington, the creators of Pride of Baghdad. This is their online not safe for work book,
Mhm.
which I discovered, and we are going to be covering Friday on our Not Safe for Work episode, which is going to
Yeah.
be a lot of fun because I'm really glad I found this because like I went into our chat and I was like, "Yo, what do you guys think about this?" And Elle was like, "I already been reading it. It's super dope." And you were like,
Yeah.
"Hell yeah!" So I was just like, "Sweet."
Yeah.
And
And it's
yeah,
free.
it's a free book. You got to put up with the suckiness of Substack, but it's
Mhm.
worth it. Like
But
the wonky thing about it is a lot of it you got to read it in 2-page increments, so it's a little maddening. Reading it
but
on the website, but it's worth it. It's a damn good book.
but I think every like 100 pages he'll put out a PDF of it all collected together.
Okay.
Yeah, so like he has like a post where it's the first 100 pages, or if you've been following it from week to week, 'cause I think he puts out pages each week. like you get, like you said, 2 pages, or even sometimes just 2 panels if it's splash pages, right? Which, like you said, is irritating. But if you go through in Substack, like you said, it's so like the way everything is categorized and stuff is just horrible. But he does have, if you look, you can find posts where it's like first 100 pages, and then I think he just put out another post where it's like the first 136 pages. So he keeps adding to a PDF. If you go later on, you can find it and download everything in one shot instead
Okay.
of having to
I
find them
tried to
all.
look for something like that, but I couldn't find
Yeah,
it on that site.
yeah, yeah. Well, I found them. So I know you put together a PDF for us, so we didn't have to go back through like for reference and stuff. So that was cool. Yeah,
Yeah.
it was a lot more fun to read it all like through than, like you said, 2, 3 pages at a time every week. Yeah,
But we'll get into that on Friday. It's
yeah,
super good, and yeah, I
yeah,
can't wait to recommend it more to you guys. So
yeah.
look for that.
Yeah.
We're gonna
We'll
the
have
Flowers of
Elle and
Romance and
we'll have
Tara, the whole tea
Tara.
room with us. Yeah, it's
Yeah,
gonna
the
be.
tea room girls. Yeah,
We're gonna
so
be
it should be
talking
fun.
about safe sex. We're gonna be talking about faithless. We're gonna be talking about hit me and lovesick. Right?
Mm,
My
yeah,
oh, and cheeky by Pat Shad.
Pat Sh- Pat Shan. Yeah, cheeky. His Kickstarter he put out well, maybe what, not quite 6 months ago, a few months ago.
Well,
Mm.
I mean the book just finally came out though, right? Recently.
Yeah, it's out. Yeah, yeah. I think if it's not out, he's been mailing them out. So yeah.
So yeah, and we're gonna be talking about like lots of fun, not safe for work stuff with the gals uh,
Hmm.
later on this week. So join us then. Take it easy, party people.
Have a good week.